Good afternoon, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ఇప్పటిదాకా ఇంట్రొడక్షన్ ఇచ్చింది విన్నరా మేడం?
లేదు సార్, ఇప్పుడే జాయిన్ అయ్యాను.
Okay, right. So, very good morning, my dear friends. Welcome today's session. In this regard, CPGET free online coaching, botany free online coaching. These collaborative efforts from different institutions like RBVRR Women's College Autonomous Hyderabad, Government Degree College for Women Jagityal, SRR Government Arts and Science College Autonomous Karimnagar, Government Degree College for Women Karimnagar, GDC Lakshadpet. So collaboratively conducting this wonderful free online coaching for CPGET 2024 botany online coaching. In this regard, we would like to invite today's resource person, Dr.P.Manjula Madam Garu. Please start your session, share your screen, madam. Please welcome.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, is it?
Yes, madam. Yes. Please click on slideshow. Please click on slideshow. Okay, madam.
Okay, so today's topic is good afternoon all. So today's topic is ecological adaptations of xerophytes. So xerophytes, so already we discussed about the classification of plants. So based on the availability of water. So based on xerophytes, next one is the xerophytes. So the plants which grow in dry habitats are xeric conditions. So they are called as a xerophytes. That is, here the water availability is less. So in that conditions, the plants which are growing, so how they are modified, what are the modifications which are occurring here morphologically and anatomically. So we will discuss this. So here plants which grow in dry habitats are called as a xerophytic plants. And what are the characteristics of the plants of deserts and semi-desert region? So they can grow in mesophytic conditions also, where the available water is in sufficient quantity. So these xerophytic plants, they can also grow in mesophytic conditions. So availability of water, when the available water is available in that conditions also, they can grow. So they can these plants, these xerophytic plants, they can withstand the extreme dry conditions and low humidity and high temperature conditions. So the xerophytic plants, they can grow in dry conditions and low humidity and also the high temperature conditions. So for this purpose, so the plants are modified physiologically and anatomically and morphologically. So mainly for the purpose of to absorb as much water as they can get from the surroundings. So because they are growing in dry habitat, so they absorb water from the surroundings. So to retain water in their organs for very long time. So when the water is available in that condition, they can store or they can preserve in their organs like leaf or stem. So and to reduce the transpiration rate to minimum and to check high consumption of water. So here these xerophytic plants, so when the water is available, so they can store the water in their plant tissues. Their tissues are organs like leaf or stem, and they also reduce the transpiration rate to minimum. So otherwise the water will be evaporate. So to check the high consumption of water. So these are the some of the main aims of these xerophytes. So here xerophytic plants are classified into 3 types. That is drought escaping plants, drought enduring plants, and drought resistant plants. So here these xerophytic plants are again classified into three types. That is the drought escaping plants, drought enduring plants, and drought resistant plants. So first one is the drought escaping plants. So in this, the plants, they are short lived and small sized plants, so which can complete their life cycle within a few weeks to few weeks only, to few days. So here they can, and they are also called as the ephemerals, are drought evaders, are drought escapers. So when the water is available in that condition only, they can live, and they can, in dry conditions, they are perinating birds. So they are remain like that only. So when the water is available, so they can complete their life cycle. So they are called as a drought escaping plants. So next one is a, these are also small sized plants, so which have the capacity to endure or tolerate the drought. And is a drought resistant plants. So these plants develop certain adaptive features in them through which they can resist extreme drought conditions. Okay, so here xerophytes are again classified into drought escaping. So here the drought escaping means, so they complete their lives when the water is available in that condition only, they can complete their life cycle, and during the dry conditions they are present in the form of perinating birds like that. Okay, so next one is a drought enduring. So these have the capacity to endure or tolerate the drought and drought resistance. So they develop certain adaptive features in them through which they can resist extreme drought conditions. So classification on the basis of their habitat. So the plants which are growing on the acid soils, they are called as xerophytes, and the plants which grow on the saline soils, they are called as the halophytes, and the plants which are growing on rocks, they are called as the lithophytes, and rocks, they are grow on the sand and gravel, they are called as the psammophytes, and chersophytes means they are on the wasteland. Eremophytes, so the plants which grow on deserts and steppes. And cold soil, the plants which growing on the cold soils, they are called as a psychrophytes. And savannas, the plants which growing in the savanna, so they are called as the xylophytes. And sclerophytes mean they are forest and bushlands. So these are the classification of xerophytes based on their habitat. So next one is the adaptations of xerophytes. So these structural modifications in xerophytic plants, which may be of two types, that is xeromorphic characters and xeroplastic characters. Okay, xeromorphic means so the characters that are genetically fixed and inherited. So appear in the xerophytes irrespective of the condition, whether they are growing in deserts or in humid regions. Okay, so xeromorphic means so they, irrespective of their conditions, so they have some modifications, characters that are genetically fixed and inherited. Next one is the xeroplastic character. So these features are induced by the drought and are always associated with the dry conditions. So here the plasticity means, so based on the conditions, they can modify their characters. So they are never inherited. So depending upon the fleshy organ, that is the succulent xerophytes, non-succulents, they are also called as a true xerophytes. So again here the xerophytes, that is if they store their preserve their water in the organs. So they are called as succulent xerophytes. Non-succulent, they cannot preserve water. So they are called as a non-succulents. These are the true xerophytes. So when the water is available in that condition, they store in the leaves or stems, and during unfavorable or during the dry conditions, they can use this water for their metabolic activity. So they're called as the succulent xerophytes. Non-succulents mean they cannot preserve the water. So they're called as the true xerophytes. So morphological adaptations of xerophytes. So first one is the root. So in xerophytes, so well-developed root system is seen because here the main function of the roots is to absorb the water and nutrients from the soil. So here they are growing in the dry conditions. So here the root system is well-developed to absorb the water where the water is available. So they want to catch the water. So that's why here the well-developed root system is seen. So, and here the profusely branched, the root system also branched and well-developed root system is seen in the xerophytes. So, extensive and more elaborate than the shoot system. And here the many, so here the root system is well developed when compared to the shoot system. So here the many desert plants, they develop superficial a root system where the supply of water is restricted to surface layer of the earth. So in perennial xerophytes, they grow very deep in the earth and reach the layers, so where the water is available in plenty. So here the very expanded root system is seen here. So root hairs also, here the densely developed near the growing tips of the rootlets, so which enable the roots to absorb sufficient quantity of water. So here the well-developed root hairs also absorbed, and they mainly helps in the absorption of water. Okay, so this is opposite to that hydrophytes. So in hydrophytes, root system is not well developed and root hairs also absent. But here, root hairs and well developed root system is seen in the xerophytes. So next one is the stem. So in some xerophytes, become very hard and woody and may be either aerial or subterranean. So here the outer layer, which is covered with the thick coating of wax and silica, as in equisetum, and some may be covered with dense hairs, as in calotropes. So here, very hard, and so here the stem is very hard and woody. It may be aerial or subterranean, that is covered inside the soil. So here the stem, it is covered outer layer, which is covered with the thick wax or silica. Is in like an equisetum example. So some may be covered with the dense hairs, as in the callotrope. Callotrope is the stem, our surface of the stem, which is covered with hairs. So in some xerophytes, stem may be modified into thorns in Durantha and Ulex. So here the stem is modified into thorns here. So in some xerophytes, here the modifications maybe takes place. So here this one. So here the stem is modified into pillowclade and cladode. So here the leaf is modified into spiny structure. Okay. So stem is modified into spiny or leaf-like structure. So next one is the leaf. So if present, they are greatly caducous, that is they fall early in the season. So if the leaves are present, so they can be they fall at the early stages only to reduce the transpiration. So here the reducer scales. Here the leaves are also modified scales, as in casuarina, ruscus, and asparagus. So some evergreen xerophytes, they have the needle-shaped leaves. Example in pinus, that is, leaves are modified into needle shape. So in leaf, the succulents, the leaves swell remarkably and become very fleshy, owing to storage of excess amount of water. Because so the leaves of xerophytes are flexy. That is due to because during the when the water is available, they can store the water in their the leaf or stem part. So here the fleshy leaves are observed in aloe vera and sedum. So several members of the Chenopodiaceae members. So in some excess here, they mainly store the water and latex in them. So sometimes they may be reduced to spines, as per the example in Ulex opentia. So here the leaves are modified into spines in Ulex opentia, euphorbia, and splendens. So in Australian species of acacia, that is bubble. So here the petiole swells and becomes flattened, taking the shape of leaf. So pillowed. Pillowed means the petiole, that is stalk of the leaf, is modified into leaf-like structure. So it is called as a pillowed. So trichophily. So hairy covering on the leaves and stems. It is called as a trichophily. So tricho means hairs on the leaves and stems. So hairy covering on the leaves and stems. It is called as a trichophily, which is seen in the Gigipus, Nerium, and Calotropis procera. So rolling up leaves are foldings in grasses. So in some, that is the leaves are they are turned, they fold inside to check the stop this transpiration. So rolling leaves, maybe it is these are seen in the grasses mainly. So flowers, so they develop during the favorable conditions only, and fruit and seeds have hard shells and coating. So these are the morphological adaptations of xerophytes. That is a well-developed root system with root hairs. Stem here in some xerophytes the stem. So here the stem may be hard and woody and here it is covered with waxy or silica. So in some xerophytes, it is modified into thorns. In some, it is modified into leaf-like structure, and in some, it is modified into needle-like structures. So here the stem is modified. So next one is the leaves. So here the leaves are mainly here in some xerophytes. So the leaves will be fall early in the season, or it may be reduced to scale leaves like in Casuarina, Ruscus, and Asparagus. So needle-shaped leaves are observed in Pinus. So here the leaves are modified into needle shape. So in some, that is some succulents. So succulent xerophytes, so when the water is available, so they store or preserve the water in their leaves. So they becomes fleshy. So during the unfavorable conditions, they use this stored water. So fleshy leaves are observed in aloe vera, sedum, and other members of the Chenopodiaceae. So in some, the leaves are reduced to spines. Example, Ulex, Opentia, Euphorbia. So in Opentia, so this is the stem only. So here the stem is modified into green colored leaf-like structure and on the stem. So these are the nodes and internodes. Here the spines. So leaves are modified into spines here. So this brown colored structures, these are the spines. These are nothing but the leaves, and this green colored one, it is called as the leaf. Species of acacia, petiole is swells and becomes flattened and taking the shape of pillow. So trichophyll, it is seen in the gingivas and
Madam, please click on slideshow.
So hairy coverings on the leaves and stems. So here in some species, that is rolling of the leaves, maybe rolling or folding of the leaves may be observed in grasses to check the transpiration, to stop transpiration. So here the leaves are folded. So during the dry condition. So flowers, generally the flowers in xerophyte, they develop during the favorable conditions, and fruits and seeds have the hard shell and coating. So next one is the anatomical adaptations. So root hairs, root cap very well developed, and roots may become fleshy to store water, and in calotropis, root possess rigid and thickened walls. Okay, so mainly here the root hairs and root cap are very well developed, and here roots possess rigid and thickened walls. Okay, so next one is the stem. So heavy cutinization and wax depositions on the surface of the epidermis. So here the epidermis, outer epidermis, which is lignified or highly cuticularized, cutinized, or it is with wax depositions on the surface of the epidermis. So here the epidermis is also well developed and compact with thick cells. So stomata, here the stomata is sunken type of stomata is present. So generally stomata which is present in the epidermal layer, but here the sunken stomata means so inside, that is in the hypodermal region. So here the stomata is present. So it is called as the sunken stomata. Next one is the hypodermis. So hypodermis, which is several layered, and sclerenchymatous are florenchymatous. So here the mechanical tissues are also well developed in xerophytes. That is here the hypodermis is well developed with several layers, and it is sclerenchymatous. So whereas in hydrophyte, that is hypodermis is thin layered, and so that is parenchymatous cells only. Here mechanical tissues also very well developed, and vascular tissues also well developed and differentiated. So oil and resin glands also present. So these are the anatomical characters of xerophyte, that is root system well developed, and here the mechanical tissues are well developed, and epidermis also well developed with compact thick wall, and epidermis also it is covered with lignin or cutin or wax depositions, and stomata, here this is also a special character, that is the presence of sunken stomata. It is a characteristic feature of xerophytic plants. Next one is the hypodermis, that is the sclerenchymatous hypodermis. So it is also a special character, that is a xerophytic character, which is observed. And next one is a mechanical tissues, well-developed mechanical tissue, that is the sclerenchyma and collenchyma. So here the vascular tissues are well developed, and oil and resin glands also present. So this is the structures of this Caparis, TS of the Caparis system, and here the TS of Casuarina. So when we observe here the thick cuticle, epidermis, and myrizoan cells, sclerenchymatous hypodermis. So here in Casuarina also, that is the thick cuticle, epidermis, sclerenchyma, sclerenchymatous hypodermis, and here the hairs, epidermal hairs also seen, and sunken stomata here, and vascular bundles also well developed. So next one is the leaves. So in the leaves, the epidermis, the outer walls of the cells heavily deposited with cuticle and cellulose. So in the leaves also, the epidermal region, it contains thick walled cuticle, and in succulent epidermal cells which act as a water storage region. So epidermal cells which store the water. So water storage region. So in certain grasses with rolling leaves have specialized epidermal cells called as a bulliform cells or motor cells or hinge cells. So these are seen in the grasses. So during when the water is unavailable, so in that condition, so the leaves will be fold inside. Okay. So due to presence of these cells, bulliform cells or motor cells or hinge cells. So common occurrence in the leaf epidermis of sugarcane, bamboo, typha, and number of other grasses. So generally these bulliform cells, they are seen in the sugarcane, bamboo, typha, and other grasses. So in nerium, epidermis is many layered. Okay, that is upper and lower epidermis also observed. So next one is the stomata. Here the generally sunken type, that is in some cases be found in the pits. So that is stomatal chamber in that. So our cavity in the stomatal cavity. So this stomata is present. So it is called as a sunken stomata. So walls of the guard cells and subsidiary cells are also heavily cutinized and lignified in many xeric plants. So in dorsiventral leaves, generally found on the lower surface. So this stomata, it is present on the only on the ventral lower surface. In rolling leaves, they are scattered mostly on the upper surface. So here the stomata distribution also varies. So in some, that is in dorsiventral leaves, generally stomata is present on the lower epidermis. Whereas in rolling leaves, that is in the grasses, they are scattered in the upper surface. So hairs found in the depressions which protecting the stomata from the direct stroke of strong wind. So here the stomata, here the hairs are found under this depression. So the at the region of stomata. So these hairs, they protect from the strong wind. So here this is the structure. So here the sunken stomata. So it contains outer chamber, inner chamber, and here. So this is the stomata. Okay. So here also. So here the TS of the nerium leaf, which showing multi-layered epidermis. Okay. So here three-layered epidermis is three-layered, and here the thick cuticle and three-layered epidermis and polysac tissue. And here the leaf cell, that is the rosette crystals of leaf within the leaves cell linear leaf cells. Here the spongy tissue and sunken stomata. So here this one is the lower epidermis. So here in this also, here the stomata is present on the lower epidermis, and here it is also the sunken stomata. So here in nerium, that is multi-layered epidermis is observed. So next one is a mesophyll. So here the very compact and intercellular spaces are greatly reduced. And here the polysac tissue develops on several layers. And in some xerophytes, mesophyll is surrounded by the thick hypodermal sheath of sclerenchyma from all the sides except from the below, that is sclerophyllous plants. So here in some xerophytes, that is mesophyll is surrounded by the thick hypodermal. Mesophyll, it is covered with the thick hypodermal sheath of sclerenchyma. So in pinus, the spongy cells of the mesophyll are star-shaped. So this is a pinus needle. So it contains here the stomata are distributed on upper and lower epidermis, and here sclerenchymatous hypodermis, and here thick wall cuticle on the outer side, and here the resin canals also present in this needle, pinus needle. So in succulent leaves, that is spongy parenchyma which store excess quantity of water, mucilage and latex. So this makes the stem swollen and fleshy. When we observe the xerophyte, that is succulent plants like aloe, so they are become spongy due to presence of this water and mucilage. So conducting tissue, that is a xylem and phloem, develop very well in the xerophytic plants. So next one is the physiological adaptations. So succulents are well known to contain the polysaccharides, pentozoans, and number of acids. So in succulent plant, that is tomato, open during the night hours and remain closed during the daytime. So some enzymes, peroxides, and are more active in xerophytes than the mesophytes. And presence of the cuticle and polished surface, that is the presence of waxy layer and compact cells, sunken stomata, protected by the stomatal hairs, which regulate the transpiration. And the xerophytes have very high osmotic pressure, so which increases the turgidity, wilting of the cell is prevented, and also affects the absorption of water. So these are the physiological adaptations, and here these are the anatomical adaptations of xerophytes. Is it visible, this screen, xerophytes?
Madam,
Sir,
slide show పెట్టండి madam, if possible, please.
okay, sir.
Please click on slide show.
Sir, is it visible, this xerophytes?
No, no madam, ఇప్పుడు మాకేం కనబడుతుందంటే anatomical adaptations కనబడుతుంది.
Now, sir, is it okay? So, xerophytes.
Please click on slide show. Yes, it's visible madam.
Okay. Okay. So here xerophytes. So the plants which are adapted to survive under very poor availability of water, they are called as a xerophytes. So here the plants like cacti and other succulents, which are typically found in deserts where the low rainfall is, where is low rainfall is occur. So in that condition, so these plants are growing. So here some plants which live in very dry situations, while the others, and some are living in the conditions of fairly reasonable supply of water. So the plants that live under Arctic conditions may also have the need of xerophytic adaptations, as here the water is unavailable for the uptake. So when the ground is frozen. Okay, so here the water is available, but it is not available to take. So their leaves are covered with the silvery hairs. So here the plants which growing in dry situation, they develop a large and deeply penetrating root system, which is capable of efficient absorption. So some plants which grows in marshy places, so which possess high osmotic concentration, and due to this high concentration within the plant, so the absorption of water from the marshy soils takes place. So example here, Molinia. So here the examples mainly. So here the ephemeral annuals, that is the plants, these plants are also known as the drought evaders or drought escapers. So they are the annuals and complete their life cycle within a very short period. So they do not withstand dry seasons, but actually avoid them. So here, so here the xerophytes are classified into three types. That is the that is drought escapers, drought evaders. So here, first one is the drought escapers, mean they complete their life cycle in very short period. So examples for this is the Archimon mexicana. Okay. So succulents, another one is so these plants, they grow in habitats with lesser this water whenever it is available. So they have the succulent and fleshy organs like stem, leaves, and roots. So which serve as the water storage organs, and they accumulate large amounts of water during the rainy season. So examples for these succulents are euphorbia and opuntia. So next one is next one is a non-succulent perennial. So these are the drought resistant and called as the true xerophytes. So they possess a number of morphological, anatomical, and physiological characters, so which enable them to withstand critical dry conditions. Example for this non-succulent perennials are Calotropis, Acacia, and Casuarina and Nerium. So mainly for this examples only ephemerals. So the main ephemerals are drought evaders or drought escapers are. Example is Archimon mexicana and succulents like Euphorbia and Opuntia. And another non-succulent perennials example is Calotropis, Acacia, and Casuarina and Nerium. So here anatomical adaptation xerophytes, mainly epidermis is the organ that is the most strikingly modified in xerophytic leaf. So cells of the epidermis are small but compactly arranged, and it is single layered with thick walls. So occasionally epidermis is multi-layered and the Nerium. Okay, stomata are sunken type. Reduction of it mainly because to reduction of the transpiration and next walls of the guard cells and subsidiary cells also. Our cells are heavily cutinized and lignified. So bulliform cells, so the grass leaves, they have the motor cells, so which play important role in rolling up the leaves during the period of dry. So these cells are thin-walled and greatly enlarged and sensitive to turgor changes. So here phylloclades, modifications of the stem, so that is phylloclades. So here the stem becomes flattened, green, leaf-like and perform photosynthesis. Phylloclade means here the stem is modified into leaf-like structure and performing the photosynthesis. So stem shows here the nodes and internodes, and the sunken stomata are present on the both sides. And thick sclerenchymatous patches uniformly distributed above the each vascular bundles, and well-developed layers of polysaccharide on both sides. So another term that is the cladode. So cladode, it is the modification of the stem in which the branch of the single internode is flattened and becomes leaf-like. Okay. So the main difference between phylloclade and cladophyll. So phylloclade means here the stem modified into leaf-like structure, whereas cladode means it is a modification of the stem in which the only a branch of the single internode is flattened and become leaf-like. So the proper leaf is reduced to a scale in the axils of which they develop into group of linear narrow structures called the cladode. So epidermis is covered with external thick cuticle, and polysaccharide and spongy cells contain the abundant chloroplast, and stomata are few in number and check against the transpiration. So main adaptations and functions. So the thick cuticle, it mainly helps in the protection against the desiccation. Trichomes are hairs to maintain the humid air around the stomata, and sclerenchymatous hypodermis to protect the internal tissues from the high light intensity, and thin-walled parenchyma to preserve excess of water and mucilage, and pilloclades, sunken stomata, sclerenchyma surrounds the vascular bundles to reduce the transpiration, and cladode, well-developed polysaccharide cells to increase in the photosynthetic activity. So these are the adaptations. So here, in the xerophytic roots, there is a presence of suberized exodermis, which regulate the inverse flux of water, and water storage parenchyma cells in the cortical region, presence of additional layers of cells with thickened walls around the stele and lignified pith in asparagus. So here the endodermis with thickened cell walls and additional layers of thick-walled cells around the stele, lygine. So here the suberized exodermis is to regulate the reverse flux of water, and parenchyma in the cortex to store the water, and additional layers of thick-walled cells around the stele to prevent the desiccation, and thick-walled endodermis to regulate the reverse flux of water. So this is about the ecological adaptations of xerophytes. So here these are the main terms. That is a phylloclades, that is stem modified into flattened leaf-like structure. Example, Opentia, cladophylls means branches develop in the axils of the scale leaves and becomes metamorphosed to leaf-like structure. Okay, Ruscus, cladophylls means many axillary branches become modified into small needle-like. So these green structures which look exactly like the leaves, example in asparagus. So these are the modifications mainly seen in the xerophytes. Okay, so I will stop here. Sir, any doubts?
Madam, thank you very much. We're going to wind up the session. So next class, 2 o'clock, we will meet once again. Okay. Thank you.